But I say all that to really give a nod to fear. And like, people don't realize how pervasive and like subliminal fear is in everything we do every single day. And because people don't address it and create that awareness of it and really try to tackle it, they don't realize there's a glass ceiling and they're in a box. They can escape if they so choose. So to your point, fear is one of the biggest things that keeps people from pursuing their passions.
All right, what is up, passion seekers? So I'm super excited. We have a good friend of mine, business partner, and honestly, entrepreneur, worked in the corporate world, kind of been all over. Taylor Coffin, welcome to the show.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you for having me. Excited to be here. I think what you're doing here is fantastic. So
Appreciate it. Here. Yeah, so I'm excited for this one. So where were we? We were just chatting, and you were like, "Oh, we went to the Topgolf." And you're like, yeah, I just quit my corporate job. I was like, okay. And ever since I've known you, you've worked at Palmetto, right? Yeah. So what inspired that?
So many things that we don't have enough time for, but short story is me seeking a work-life imbalance. Me seeking the ability to prioritize my happiness and what I want for the rest of my life, and then work back from there. I think most of my life I have, I'm a hardworking entrepreneurial individual and I'm passionate about a lot of things. And so for me, I always knew that I could work and make money and pursue my passions, but happiness was always something that was like very tertiary, like out here someplace.
You'll get it one day.
Yeah, you'll get it one day. Like, what is the American dream, right? Like the American dream to me is happiness. Yeah. And not, work first. It's happiness first, and knowing that, being in this country and being, so blessed with all the opportunities, we will always have the opportunity to work and provide for our families and do the things. But to be our best selves, I think we need to find a way to prioritize happiness, and work-life imbalance to me means, instead of 80% work and 20% life and happiness and self-love and all those things, flipping it so that way 80% of my existence in my life and my pursuits is what makes me happy. Now, that doesn't mean that like I 80-20 work, like that I can be doing things that provide for my family, provide me economic security, and that I'm passionate about, and I can be a part of that 80. Yeah. But 80% of what I do every day needs to make me happy. And 20% of it needs to be things that I don't necessarily want to do or don't necessarily immediately provide me happiness. And that's what I mean by that.
Which I like that, because that's probably what encouraged me and wanted to have you on amongst a bunch of other different things. But is you left a corporate job, and, me and you were both in the corporate world. And so I understand the struggle of where corporate comes into play. And I feel like the society tells you like, oh, corporate world, you made it. Like if you can get in the corporate world, you made it. Like that's that's turnkey right there. And I think when you said you left to, pursue what made you happy, I think that really resonated with me, because I don't think, that's the whole premise of passion seekers. It's like to leave what you're currently doing to do what makes you happy. So like what you're saying, doing what you're doing is still work, quote unquote, but it's work that makes you happy. So like we were talking about the videography and photography, and we were talking about that, and I can tell like just the flip of a difference of how much happier that makes you. And so it's not really work because you're passionate about it.
Right. One wise man once said, and I don't know the quote, if you do what you love, you never work a day in your life. Yeah. And it's extremely cliche, and it's extremely hard, I think, to really internalize and put that into action, because another great thing that I heard recently was that to live a great life, you need to have freedom. But to have freedom, you must have courage. And you can't get the freedom that you want in life without doing things that are uncomfortable. Yeah. And having, both of us are God-fearing men. And so like we have our faith to help, orient us in times of, turbulent seasons or storms and transitions and things of that nature. And when the noise starts to pick up and we're like, what do I do here? Just we can, pray on it. But for anyone, whether you're a person of faith or whether you're just looking for guidance in familial things or work things, I think it's finding a way to figure out, okay, like do I have and will I set out on this path, stick to it? Do I have the courage to set out on this path?
Yeah.
Do I have the fortitude and the commitment to really stick through it when it does get tough? And I think that's a lot of where I'm at right now with having like my corporate job is I'm happy with. I do not have the economic security that I want. let's just call that out. Let's just call that out. I am happily unemployed. I'm happy, but I'm also unemployed.
Yeah. Yeah. Those are two separate.
I don't know what my bills look like 30, 60, 90 from now, but and to a lot of people that would be extremely like it would consume them. And it definitely has kept me up at nights knowing that like I left a 6-figure job and everyone when I left was like, what did you leave for? What'd you leave to? And I'm like, I left to pursue my happiness. Yeah. And that I think is going to be very different than a lot of people that like say they left their corporate job. Mm-hmm. They maybe walked into their business providing them that same salary and or more. My business does not provide me that salary. Yeah. Right. Like we're still building a lot of things with this business, mm-hmm. right? You work extremely hard in it. I work extremely hard in it and we're building there. Right. Yeah. But I still need to figure out like finding what my economic security looks like through the end of the year. And I'm road mapping that, but I'm still happy. Like if I got to eat ramen noodles or, it's
the best freaking ramen you'll ever eat.
You ain't lying. I'm excited about the adventure and the journey. Mm-hmm. And that comfort and true peace is something that I never thought I'd have in my life, especially at my age of, being in my mid 30s. Like it's scary. A lot of people wouldn't do what I just did.
Yeah. And a lot of people don't. And I think, so Denzel Washington, I think I'm hooked on this Denzel Washington quote that
that's my guy.
He did a commencement speech at a college and he said the richest place in the world is the grave or a graveyard because the graveyard's where dreams go to die.
100%.
And I heard that.
Very familiar with that quote.
I heard that early on. I think I was a senior year. Just graduated high school senior year.
I don't think he's the first one to say it. I think he's the one that social media made it popular.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that quote kept me up at night. Mm-hmm. And from that day, I told myself, I never want to be on my deathbed saying, I wish I would have.
Tell you a true story. My mother, my mother passed away and I was young when I lost my mother. And a lot of people deal with losing someone in a lot of different ways. I've lost people to suicide, overdose, gun violence. I've lost people in a lot of different ways, and I've dealt with a lot of death in my life, so I've become very desensitized to it, which isn't a good thing. But when I lost my mother, I was her in-home nurse, and I watched her die. Mm-hmm. I watched someone who could have, submitted something for a Nobel Peace Prize or, run a country and change the world, whose brain was so sharp. Watch her body fail her. So that way, 2 hours before she took her last breath, she was sitting there still smiling, shooting the shit with us, right? To watch someone's body fail them while they're cognizant of it and they know that they're dying and that there's nothing they can do to stop it is one of the most excruciating things. I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy.
Yeah.
And my mother on her deathbed said a few things. One of them was, don't go back to your ex-girlfriend.
As a mother always says.
That was one of them. She's like, I don't like that girl. Don't go back to that girl. That was one of them. The second thing that she said was, there was a gentleman in my life who became a brother to me. Mm-hmm. And is to this day. His name's P. And she said, keep him close. Mm-hmm. He's a good man. And he'll be there for you if you ever need anything, especially about when I am gone. And the third thing she said was, make sure you pursue your dreams. Mm-hmm. She had told my sister and I that she wanted to be a paleontologist. Now, my mother was a very well-traveled, scholastic, successful businesswoman. Yeah. She worked in healthcare. And she was one of the directors for a global dialysis company called DaVita. And her funeral was filled with hundreds of people who are like our family was probably 10% of the people that attended her funeral. It was a lot of people whose lives she had impacted positively that came and showed up. And it was a testament to the work that she had done with her 51 years here. And the reason why I share this story with you is because, to your point, my mother said, pursue your dreams. Her biggest regret in life, which will probably not spanking me more, but her biggest regret in life, you need a little bit of levity in sad moments. Her biggest regret in life was that she didn't go and become that paleontologist. She wanted to go and dig up bones in the desert and do all that. That was something she really wanted to do. Mm-hmm. And it's so odd. I knew my mother for so long, and to hear her that I never went and did that.
Yeah.
And for her to share that with me and say, like, I want you to chase your dreams. And my mother was consistent with this. All throughout my life, my youth, my mother supported every odd passion, pursuit, this curiosity I had. In growing up in a Catholic Irish town and I'm self-aware, so being a black man in a Catholic Irish town, playing hockey, tennis, badminton, riding horses. I can outride most of the people down in the South. Like, people don't know that. Football, soccer, lacrosse, paintball. I was a competitive paintball player. Any Boy Scout, like anything and everything I wanted to do, she afforded me the opportunity at any cost. No matter how hard she had to work or what she had to do, she gave me the opportunity to do that. And the rest of my life is I've committed to honoring her sacrifice and investment in me.
Yeah.
And so I shared that with you with all of you, because it's important to pursue your dreams. And to Davis's point, you don't want to come to the end of your life, realizing that your time has come. And with whatever amount of time the good Lord gave you, you didn't use it wisely.
Yeah. Yeah. And God, there's so much to unpack there.
Sorry.
There's so much. No, we're literally 13 minutes in and we just opened up a huge can of worms. So this is going to be a good episode. But God, that's so good. So one, the pursue your dreams is what I want to hit on. A good portion of is the flip side of it. So many people say pursue your dreams, but there's also so many people that don't. I think I read a statistic the other day. 85% of Americans are working a job just to collect a paycheck.
Because people live in fear.
Yes.
People live... I'll use myself as an example in a lot of these situations. I think it's important that everybody have a therapist. Not all therapists are created equal, so find you a good one.
Yeah.
That's like doctors and OBGYNs or whatever. We all had a bad dentist. We have a good dentist. One that has a gentle touch and a bad touch.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I have tattoos. I have a good tattoo artist and a bad tattoo artist. Like, that's everything in life, right? Find yourself a therapist and someone that helps you understand from a cognitive behavior standpoint how you function, because you don't know. Any man or woman or anybody that says to you, I'm this, and this, full of shit.
Yeah.
Because it takes a lot of time and effort that most of us don't want to put in, because it's painful to truly understand who we are and what we are. I had to realize I had daddy issues. I had to realize that I had mommy issues. I had to realize that I had relationship issues. I had to realize I had drinking issues. I had to realize that I abused drugs to stay numb and I'd want to stay party out all night and do, cocaine and do all these other crazy things. Like, when I was in my youth and dealing with trauma and death, how did I run and escape that?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And we all have things and I talk about these things because this is a part of what made me the man I am today. And I'm proud of the man I am today. So you can't, and a lot of us do this, we don't want to talk about our past, but you have to, unfortunately, clean out what's under the rug. You have to know that it's there, but you have to understand why it's there. Most people don't want to do that because it's painful. Yeah. The other part of this is growth and getting to, pursue your dreams is first you have to understand who you and what you are, right? That's a big part of it. And then you have to understand, what your triggers and all the other things they're in. So that's why I say get a good therapist. They'll help you with that, unpacking all that, do that. But that will then help you on step 2 of phase 2, which is processing fear. And if you understand yourself better, you understand the root causes of things. You understand why you're scared of things. You understand, I have a lot of friends, for example, that if you saw me and some of my friends in the street, they'd be like, that guy looks racist. Why are you hanging out with that black guy? Why are they having such a good time? What the fuck? What's going on here? You know what I mean? And I get along with a lot of different types of people because I don't judge anyone.
Yeah.
And no matter what, I don't judge a book by its cover. I know that we're all very different. And we're all very complex beings. And so for me, I recognize that generally when someone treats you poorly initially, it's out of animal instincts and fear of either their nature or nurture. Okay, this is not a safe person to be around, or this is an unsafe situation. And then sometimes there's a little bit of patience and education required there to be able to navigate that. And that might be the best person you've ever met in your life. Yeah. But fear is such a big driver. It's primal. It keeps us alive. It's the most powerful thing. Arguably the government leverages fear to keep us controlled.
Yep.
It's a whole nother podcast.
Come experience us after the show.
Yeah, it's a whole nother podcast. Arguably, and I am a man of faith, so I know when I say this is very controversial, but religion has been used, if you know your history, folks, religion has been used to justify horrific things all throughout history as well, because religion is one of the easiest ways to create fear in people and control people. Again, I am a God-fearing man, but I recognize what has happened in history. But I say all that to really give a nod to fear, and like people don't realize how pervasive and like subliminal fear is in everything we do every single day. And because people don't address it and create that awareness of it and really try to tackle it, they don't realize there's a glass ceiling and they're in a box that they can escape if they so choose and want to do the work. So to your point, fear is one of the biggest things that keeps people from pursuing their passions. The fear of the unknown. I
mean, that was my big motive for this podcast, because I never felt so alive when I lost everything. And as twisted as that sounds, it's like when I left the corporate world to start a real estate, like I was the breadwinner, and it was, I was married, I had a house, we had everything, I had responsibilities, and it was like we went from making something to literally, I was like, my wife looked at me, when's our next paycheck? I was like, I don't know. I really don't know. Like, it could be tomorrow, it could be 3 months from now, it could be 3 years from now. Right. I don't know. But as delusional as it sounds, knowing that, I realized something. And I think 2023 feels like 4 years into one for me, because that's literally when my life twisted, turned, and so many things changed. Now, if you would ask me in 2023, it was for the good, I would have laughed at your face and said, absolutely not. From where I'm sitting now, I'm like, absolutely. Because one, I realize how much money has a hold on people.
Yeah.
In the sense of like, and I say,
why?
Exactly.
Why? Well, I'm asking you, why do you believe that money has a hold on people?
Because people relate money to happiness, because money purchases things that make people happy. It's a conditional response. When you're depressed, when you feel upset, you go out and purchase something. Spending money releases that dopamine.
So my question to you is, what do you think is the biggest problem that, and we'll keep it somewhat localized, but like our country, our society, what do you think is the biggest problem that we have? Because you're knocking at the door of something that I think is
it's a limiting belief. And I've talked about this before on other podcasts. It's the hoarder versus the neat freak that just throws away everything. The hoarder keeps everything because they're afraid they're not going to have enough. So if you hoard food, you're afraid you're going to run out of food and never be able to get any more. And I feel like people have the same belief with money. It's, if you hoard money, if you're just working for a paycheck just to pay the bills and everything, you're believing that there's not enough money in the world to sufficiently sustain you and your family.
I would say that what I heard there was fear. Was everything that I heard from you was that, there's a lot of fear. Mm-hmm. If I was to be the person that someone came into me and said, I don't want to live my life chasing a dollar. I want to find happiness. How do I find that? And I would ask them, well, why do you chase the dollar? And they would say, well, I chase the dollar because of everything you just said. Mm-hmm. And then I said, okay, why? I would ask why.
Yeah.
And they would probably say, well, because I have to. I need to. How am I supposed, like a whole bunch of things that they've been conditioned. I think something you were also nodding to, conditioned to believe and say. I think one of the greatest things we can do as a society is encourage our youth to travel the world. A lot of countries force them to travel.
100%.
And the reason why I say that is because when you leave the United States, not for a drunken vacay,
yeah,
but to understand a different culture, to experience different things, to really truly sit and be at peace and soak in what's happening around you. It can't be for nightclubs, and I've done both sides. So I'm saying, like, you can't be for nightclubs and hookups and you know,
truly travel
and tequila, right?
Yeah,
you got to travel to immerse yourself in these other cultures and places. What that does is it gives you perspective, and I think that the issue is that we have a lack of perspective. What one person sees that's driving down the highway and is honking at the person is like, you know, beep, 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 like, get out of my way, and this, that, and the other, and all this other craziness. That person has made the fact that he's going to be 3 minutes late to his doctor's appointment Everest. Not realizing that the person that he's harassing may be having a cardiac issue, and that's why they're driving slow, or maybe they just had a death, or maybe they whatever. The point is that person's lack of perspective and wherewithal, like this isn't that big of a deal. Like, if I'm 3 minutes late, I'm 3 minutes late. That lack of perspective has then created this anxiety and fear. Am I going to be charged late fee? Is that going to cascade me late for every other appointment on the day? It's going to, like, that lack of perspective has created fear, and then everything else is being driven by the fear. And that's what I would call out there is, like, when we feel some type of way, if we start to look at, like, why do I feel this way? Cognitive behavioral, therapy and stuff like that. Like, for me, it was understanding, why am I upset right now? Why do I want to hit this person? Like, why do I want to throw this? Why do I just want to drop the crap out of it? Why am I upset right now? You and I were annoyed at somebody at Top Golf, and you and I both looked at each other and we were like, bro.
And I think you're onto something, because the why question is the most it's the most basic of questions you can ask, but it's just so powerful. So I'm going to relate this back to most of the people listening is, okay, 90%, if you ask someone on the road, I'm going to flip that. 100% of people, if you ask them the question, do you want to be rich? If the answer is going to be yes. If not, then
for me, and this is a true statement. The answer for me has always been no.
Why?
So people listening, this is going to be like, he doesn't, like, you can ask anyone that's ever known me. I am the most giving person, especially financially, because money to me does no good outside of procuring the things you need for survival and security. An abundance of money does you no good. And why do I say that? An abundance of money creates a situation where you're insulated from reality. You get this beautiful house in this gated place, and you stop giving to your church because now you're just sitting out on your dock drinking margaritas every day. You stop investing in the right organizations or understanding, like, where is my dollar going? Because you have so much of it, you don't really care where it goes. So now that CEO getting a bonus for that nonprofit that you're paying for, you're detached from it. An abundance of money, and this is actually the first time I've said it articulated it in this way, and I'm actually like, this is actually really good phrasing. Like, somebody's gonna take this and make some money off of it. But an abundance of anything is bad, right? Too much of anything is bad.
Yeah.
An abundance of money will insulate you from reality. You heard it here first, folks. Taylor Coffin. An abundance of money We're gonna
insulate
you from reality, and that is an extremely true statement.
Yeah.
Because for me, you want to keep your pulse on things. What's important in life? Where do things need to go? You want to stay curious. Like, if you have too much money, do you stay curious?
Yeah.
You lose that curiosity. You lose a lot of the things that made you want to go out and work that hard. Like, all the things that allowed you to become rich, you lose if you become too rich. Wealth, Bob Marley, I think it was Bob Marley, but like, someone had said, like, being wealthy, what is wealth, right? Like, is wealth a lot of money in your bank account, or is it healthy family, a life well lived, education?
I said wealth is subjective.
Wealth is extremely subjective, because if you are constantly in a race pursuing something, the people that are orchestrating the event always have all the control.
Yeah.
So if the needle keeps moving, right? So you're like, I need to make $1 million. And they're like, fuck, I need to make 2. Fuck, I need to make 10. Fuck, I mean, like, if that's what keeps, and pardon the language, I'm from Boston. I do cuss a lot. If the needle keeps moving, guess what you keep doing? Head down, looking here. You're not looking here. You're not looking here. You're not looking up. You're not looking down. You're not looking behind you at who's behind you, cracking the whip, and sitting in the carriage that you happen to be the horse.
And I think, I mean, relating it back to this podcast, I think, I mean, because I believe this, and I'll say it to the day to day, true wealth comes from chasing your passion. Because if you're chasing your passion, you're not focused on how do I get rich. Getting rich, if you're trying to figure out like, okay, what's going to make me the most money, then you're trying to achieve the wrong goal.
Agreed.
I think it's what can I do to offer the most value that I am passionate about and can create a business from, not to get rich, but to share with the world. And if money ends up flowing from it, fantastic. I get to share the world. I get to broaden my horizon. So like with this podcast, would I love to make money from this? Yes, I would. Like just putting it out there. Do I? No. Do I do this? A majority, 50% of my day consumes of this podcast. And I love it. Like sitting here having these conversations, I freaking love it. And I could do it for free. And when you look at every wealthy individual, if you look at every author, all these things, they're not pursuing the wealth. They're pursuing their passion that is offering some value.
I think the byproduct of understanding who you are and respecting yourself, recognizing your value, and putting into the world what God or the omnipotent being, I don't want to turn off people that are not, like, he said, God, shut it off.
Yeah.
I mean, but like whatever the universe, whatever the purpose for you is here in the universe, and if you tap into that and you give and you pour back into the world what your purpose is, the byproduct of that is a life well lived. It's wealth and whatever wealth ends up being.
Yeah.
Wealth could be just a great marriage and great healthy kids. You know what I mean? Some people, think about it this way. How many times do we see that people who we think have it all kill themselves, go on rampages doing crazy stuff, abuse their spouses, suffer some tragedies like a child death? Like if I could have $1 billion, but if my child dies, this money it doesn't do anything for me. I would rather live under a bridge with my children being healthy and being able to provide them a healthy education and then be loved and them grow into good people than live in a big house that's empty with a bottle of Jameson.
Yeah.
What is wealth? And that's, one of my idols. I think idolizing people and things is it's a dangerous road. But someone that I respect because of what they've accomplished and overcame is Anthony Bourdain. I like Anthony Bourdain because, one, he lived a very turbulent life. Yeah. I actually really appreciate people who come from darkness into the light. And what I mean by that is, I have a lot of friends that have never had anything bad happen to them. And I'm like, that's cool. It will. We'll see how you handle it. and I don't mean that to be like a negative Nancy. I mean that like you'll learn a lot about yourself when you go through trials and tribulations. And the people who have weathered the most storms are the people that I try to surround myself with the most because they've learned how they handle difficult situations. They've learned how they handle adversity, where they will bend and where they will break. And if you don't know where you'll bend and where you'll break, you don't know yourself, which means that I don't know you either. And that to me is really important. It's like we have a running joke, me and my buddies, that like, shout out to my boy Ryan. Ryan will always tell the story around a campfire. He's like, you know how Taylor and I became friends? He kicked me in the face on the school bus. It's a true story. Like I can't. He tells it better than I do, but we did. Like they booted him in the face on the school bus. And like most of my friends, we got into tiffs with and we became stronger friends because after it. And like it's a testament to a good marriage is going to go through rough patches. Your relationships with at work, colleagues. There's no relationships that are happy forever. And if they are, when something does go wrong, it's going to be catastrophic. Mm-hmm. So the reason why I say all that is Anthony Bourdain is someone that drug addict, alcoholic, horrible relationships with his family, all these turbulent things, and then wrote a book. And then he was always a good chef. he was a cook, he was a dishwasher, he was all the crappy jobs. Anthony Bourdain reached the peak of his life, peak being what the world saw him as when he launched the TV show and then started touring the world doing all that and doing Anthony Bourdain, No Reservations, and all these other things. It's about a 10-year span of his life that he was at his peak, or 15-year span of his life that he was at his peak. And then he killed himself in his hotel room with a wine bottle at a place where he had more money than he's ever had in his life, more fame, and more people respected him than he could have ever dreamt. He killed himself because he was alone and empty, and all the things that he had meant nothing because he didn't have the things that were most important to him, which we will never know because we can't ask him. Yeah. But one can only assume is things that made him feel he probably didn't get to that place where he loved himself. He probably didn't have a relationship with his family that he needed, but he didn't have those wholesome things that you can build a strong foundation off of. And that's why I say, like, it's really important to what we're talking about. Wealth is, what is wealth to you? And I have a lot of friends that like, money's everything. Yeah. And I'm like, that's cool, bro. I can't wait for you to lose it all and then see what do you become, a shell of yourself? Because deciding whether or not they want to get rid of Social Security every other day. The stock market's going to go down, is under threat every day. They're constantly deciding whether or not they're going to fund the government. Yeah. Like, you can't put your life on top of things that you can't control. Mm-hmm. And all you control is your relationship with your family and friends and your community, who you grow into, how you grow and develop as a person and learn from your past mistakes, how you respect, love, and find value in what you bring to the table. Yeah. The table being community, and that's wealth. And that's what people need to really lean into, because all this other stuff isn't controlled by you. It can go away in an instant.
Yeah. Yeah. And I freaking love that, because I mean, and that goes back to the whole core. I'll relay this one to me. And this is, I think, why I resonated so much with you is, like, you were in corporate, you were high up. And when I was in the corporate, I thought I made it, like, at, 20, however old I was, 23 years old, I was making a ton of money. And I was like, this is it. I'm supposed to be happy. But I'd go home every single day and just be drained. Like, felt like I got hit by a school bus. And then the only exciting day was on Friday when all the money hit my bank account. I was like, oh, sweet. And then,
sweet, why? Sweet, why? Why did that make you happy?
Because it felt like
I feel the same way. Like, to this day, I still feel the same way. Like, when I see a couple extra zeros, I'm like, oh, girl.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, all right.
I'm human. Yeah. Like, I'm like, oh, daddy, go get some new shoes.
Literally.
Like, those do look good. I was looking at those.
They literally just dropped it. I got it.
For the people, this man we all know he's handsome, but this boy can dress. This boy can dress right. Yeah.
I give my wife credit on that one. After the time I walk out of the college, she's like, you're wearing that? I'm like, yeah. She's like, no, you're not. Like, okay. To go back to your question, I think because it was like I was working for something. Like, it gave me purpose of why I was working Monday to Thursday.
So you were valid. Your efforts were validated.
Yes.
So the money gave you worth.
Yes.
Isn't that? Now imagine if, and I'm talking to myself too, because it's a place that I'm getting closer to. I now find my worth. I'm getting better at drawing my self-worth. And this is something that, especially for men, everybody has insecurities and issues. Everyone's a broken bird. Anyone that says that they're not,
lying through
I'm
their teeth.
I'm staying away from you, boy. Most people, this is not how we were raised. We were raised to get our self-worth from our first prom date, from our parents, from our friends, from whether we were picked first on for kickball. Like, we weren't taught, unless you had incredible parents. And we all have good parents, but like, our parents also had parents that had parents that had parents, right? Like,
everybody has pain.
Right.
Everybody has trauma.
You have to break the cycle and start to approach this differently. And I think we as a society have to approach it differently of, like, how do we instill such a profound degree of self-worth that we are not going to be so easily influenced we won't be seeking it elsewhere.
Yeah.
One of my biggest issues in life, to this day, I'm still working on it, is I always sought validation from people outside of my household.
Mm-hmm.
I needed the street cred. I needed the people to like me. I needed this, that. And it really impacted how I moved, how I behaved, who I hung out with, all the things. And this is what most people do, right? So I'm not an outlier here, but for me, it was something that I really needed to change. You know, something my mother had asked me to work on before she died. And I'm still working on this, but we need to find worth from within us.
Yeah.
And recognize our value. And I've said a lot on this pod today already, but like I say it so much because it's so important. Because like you just said, your validation, your self-worth was derived from whether or not you got paid, and the amount. The more you got paid, the greater you felt. The less you got paid, the poorer you felt.
Yeah.
Poorer in literally like the crappier, whatever sense.
Yeah.
Not necessarily that it wasn't
Emotionally
sufficient to pay your bills. Emotionally poor. Thank you. That is something that we need to work on. And I think passion seekers, to bring it back to the pod, passion seekers to me is a wonderful podcast that is trying to just bring to the forefront people that are pursuing their passions. Mm-hmm. Like, here, let me share with you guys another person that's, you know, seeking their passions or has sought out their passions and is pursuing that. And I'm really excited to continue to listen to all these other stories of other people too, and like hear like how, the why, the how, all the things they're in, because anyone can do what I've done.
Yeah.
Just make sure you have like saltines and water at home, because you might be eating light for a while, but I have my health. Mm-hmm. My cognitive functions are strong. I can go out and get a job and pay the bills. The bills will never go away. We live in America.
Yeah.
Like have you seen the play Hamilton? Like credit and debt and all of those things. This is how America functions.
Yep.
So we live in America. We live in a society that needs us to have bills and be in debt. And it's unfortunate, but the bills are always going to be there in some form or fashion, right? Unless you're extremely wealthy and you're insulated from reality. And then in that case, you just don't care about anything.
I take donations. So you feel free. But I think you're onto something.
Please, sir. I'm not at the point where you won't see me at a stoplight with a Dunkin' Donuts cup yet.
But yeah. But I think that was why me, you know, getting laid off from the corporate job was so enlightening. I'm going to use that word, enlightening, because I was putting my worth into my paycheck.
Yeah.
Which I feel like 90% of people do it. They just don't realize they do it. And it basically took God to say, hey, listen, I'm not giving you a choice. And
how you feel now?
Yeah. And then from going to getting a paycheck every 2 weeks and knowing what I'm making to literally not knowing when my next paycheck was, not knowing how I'm going to pay the mortgage, not knowing all these things, it was like freeing for a lot of different reasons. One, I realized like, holy crap, making money is so easy. And I say that that's a controversial statement, but it really is. There's a billion people in this world. If you get 10 people to pay you $1,000 for a particular service, or that sounds extreme, $500 for a particular service. One, if they pay you $1,000 for a particular service, that's $10,000 from 10 people. Now, if you do it the adverse side, to go cheaper, $500 for a particular service, that's literally $5,000 from 10 people, and there's a couple billion people in this world all over.
8.62 plus.
Yeah. So and I think that's when I was like, holy crap. I was like, oh, wow. So like relating it to real estate. 7.62. 8 billion.
Let's
round out to 8
billion. It's around 8 billion,
so
give or take.
8 billion people, and you're one individual. Do you not think you can tell?
And they all live in Charleston, South Carolina.
Yeah. If not, they're going to. Literally, we're expecting 14.5 million people to move to the state of South Carolina.
Yeah, there's
real estate fact. We're jumping off on a squad tangent, but that's what I was like in real estate. I was like, okay, there's 9,000 realtors. I was like, oh my gosh, it's so competitive. I'm not going to make it a single dime. Well, one, I was like, okay, If I want to be the 1%, just do what the 1% do. Just mimic that. Don't recreate the wheel. Just do exactly what they're doing. So that's what I did. I looked up the 1% real estate agents and literally just copied what they did. Not rocket science. And then,
but you put the work in. I think the difference between what you're saying, what a lot of, you're saying, and this is, I'm going to give Davis a lot of credit. And I have been a promoter of Davis's, in a lot of different ways, because I respect his work ethic. I meet very few people who wake up as early as he does, especially at his age, and who's not in the
psychopath,
and who's not in the military. Like he's up every morning before the birds, and that is, and he just does that. Like Davis is one of the hardest working people I've ever met, and to meet somebody 10 years, give or take a little bit up or down, my junior, who gets up every morning and puts the work in, it's commendable, and I respect that so much. That. And I've always respected that about you. And I say, I tell people all the time, I'm like, Davis is one of the hardest working men you'll meet. And what I just heard you say was you did the research, you did the benchmarking and the competitive analysis, and then you say, okay, I'm going to do this, and if it's not broke, don't fix it, and then I'll figure out how to iterate and make it my own from there.
Yeah.
But you did the damn work, and that is the difference between you and, not to pat myself on the back, but also me. Yeah. And a lot of other people, is we do the work.
People chasing their passion, they do the work. And one, because they're overcoming the fear. I've told people before on this podcast, I spent 6 months building out the strategy on how I'm going to launch this podcast, how I'm going to do it. Did it need 6 months? No. 5 months was me procrastinating because I was terrified. And I'm like, I have no idea. No one's going to listen to it. But I was like, if no one listens to it, dude, I get to sit down with incredible people and just talk. I was like, I don't care if I get one. And I think that's also, I'm with you, being a people pleaser, being having to make sure that everybody likes me, making sure that I don't step on any toes. I still have that tendency, but I also realize I'm reading a book right now called The Entrepreneurial Roller Coaster. Mm-hmm. And it was talking about, have you read it by Ben Hardy?
No.
Oh, God.
But I've heard of it. I need to read it.
So good. I'm only in chapter 4. But it talked about a funeral. And I kind of want to relate this to what we were talking about earlier. And it said 90% of the people that come to your funeral will not go if it's raining, will not go if they have something else better to go to. So he then goes, this is really dark as I'm saying this, but he said 10% of the people are there to, be there to support you. He said, if 90% of the people are at your funeral and the decision that's going to make them go or stay at home and they're under the covers is whether it's raining, he's like, why in the world would you spend 90% of your day trying to make sure you make other people happy? And I was like, yeah. Yeah. And so it changed my perspective on a totally different level. It's like, no, I'm not going to go over and kick a kid.
I'm ordering that right now.
It's so good,
bro.
It's like, no, I'm not going to intentionally try to piss people off, but I'm not going to go out of my way to defy me, to defy what makes me happy, to defy my passions. And obviously you have responsibilities on, marriage or anything like that. But, at the end of the day, I always said at the end of the day, it's just you. It's just you and God.
Amen.
And so
your internet, what are we in, a tin box?
Dude, the internet's so bad here. So if it comes up grainy. So I always told myself that when every decision that I make, if I quit a job, I was terrified to quit anything because I was letting down my boss. But then I had to tell myself at the end of the day, it is just me and God.
And that's why I think my colleagues were so surprised when I left so abruptly my last position, because they were like, you're doing good work. You just got another raise. You're in this new position. All those other things. I'm like, I'm not happy. I don't think this is where I should be. The company, I think, has put me in a position that, in good faith, I don't want to be in when I'm dealing with customers. And so I'm like, I need to leave.
Mm.
And because to me it was so important that I don't talk myself out of it, because I was close.
So easy.
And I had talked myself out of it numerous times before, but then I thought about leaving.
I talked myself out of this podcast for 5 months, so I understand.
And I was like, I literally, it was Sunday night, and I had to draft it up. I have no internet to read you guys this quote. I was going to read you guys a quote that's really important to me. I drafted up my resignation letter, and I submitted it. I put it in, scheduled it to arrive in their inbox, HR's inbox, at 8 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
So that way it would arrive top of their inbox. And I did it, and I sent it, and I went to bed. So I was like, if I don't do this, I won't resign, and I will stay here for another 6 months to a year, miserable. And I need to do this. Like, God has put it on my heart. Like, I need to make this change. And so I scheduled the email, went to bed, woke up in the morning. I was like, oh, I just quit. Because I was like, oh yeah, I can't unsend it now. And I'd sit it because I was like, I'll get up and be like, all right, I'm gonna start my day, and then 9 o'clock will hit, and I'll clock in, you know what I mean, like start doing work. But so yeah, I woke up in the morning. I was like, did I dream that I resigned? And then I was like, oh, I really did that. I was like, all right, well, here we are. And sometimes you have to do things like that. And HR didn't reach back out to me till like a week later.
Sounds about right.
And I was like, this is exactly why I'm leaving, because you guys don't care.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, no matter what, like, and it's really, it's disheartening. And we're talking, a lot about the corporate, but like, if you're in corporate and you love your job and you're pursuing your passion, doing it, kudos to you. Like, continue to do it. But like, for our experience, we're both entrepreneurs at heart. So putting an entrepreneur in a 9-to-5 corporate, it's just like
brutal. You're putting a bird in a cage.
Yeah, it's brutal. But at the end of the day, you're just a number. No matter what they tell you, no matter how you are, and like, that's not hard feelings on you. It doesn't mean that you're any less human. It's just that's the way they have to
run the business.
Yeah,
and we as business owners have to do the same thing.
Yeah, and we try to implement, like, I try to implement everybody that I work with and have interactions. I try to implement, like, hey, listen, you're not just a number. I want to humanize you, right. But at the same time, I have to look at it at an analytical, logical standpoint to make sure that I'm hitting my numbers,
right?
Because you're not going to have a job if I'm not making the right decisions,
right?
So like, that's the nitty gritty of it. But like, that's where I was, because I have that entrepreneurial mindset, is like, I don't want some other individual dictating whether or not I get a paycheck, because my boss could easily, it happened. My boss called me on a Wednesday night at 8 p.m. and said, hey dude, we lost all our funding for the East Coast. So sorry. I'm like, well, am I getting another paycheck? He was like, no. He's like, you're terminated immediately, blah, blah, blah. But if you want to finish out the week and do some work, I was like, am I going to get paid for it? He was like, no. I was like, then why? So, and it's like, so I wanted to be in control, because I'm a control freak. I wanted to have that autonomy to be able to say, like, okay, if I don't get paid, why didn't I get paid?
Right.
I didn't do enough work. Maybe I should have, leveraged this relationship a little bit more. And because at the end of the day, it's me. It's my responsibility. And that's what I appreciate, because that's what brings me happiness, knowing that I'm fully responsible. And that's where the entrepreneur roller coaster goes. It's because at the end of the day, you're still responsible. So if you have a crap day and you didn't make any money, well, why didn't you make any money? Because you probably slept in a little bit too late, or you probably didn't.
He's talking to me, folks, because he wakes up 4 fucking hours before I do. Oh, son of a bitch.
But you
love you, mom.
Literally,
love you, mama.
He was texting me at like 3 a.m. one night, and I was getting up, and he was like, "Oh, dude, I haven't slept all night." So it's
which is funny, because like I went to bed last night at 5 a.m. because I was editing podcasts. So
so it's like,
I'm a night owl.
Okay, and I'm an early bird. Yeah, but like my butt hits the bed at 9:30. So like,
yeah,
anything after 9:30 is not getting done.
Yeah,
which is funny that I'm a DJ as well. I think it's so
I don't know how you do it, bro.
I don't either. Half the time, literally, I get done with the set. I'm like, oh my God, I need to get home. So we hit on a lot of things, and I do want to wrap up here shortly. God, there's so many good things to hit on. But one of the big things you talked about, you can talk yourself out of it. And I believe, I've seen it when I was, had a relationship in high school. There was multiple times that I knew it needed to end because it wasn't good for either of us, but I talked myself because it was secure. And I'm going to relate this to the job.
Yeah. Because don't get me started on relationships.
Oh God. We'll be here for another hour. But like, I want listeners and also you to think about this. Like when you think about a job, it's a relationship, whether it's romantic or not, it's still a relationship. And so whether you're in a romantic relationship with someone, and typically in high school, it's a toxic relationship, not that the other person's bad or anything, but it's just y'all aren't compatible and you're not compatible, but it's secure. It's safe. You don't have to restart. Because my biggest thing, anytime I was like, oh, I shouldn't be in this relationship, I was like, oh crap, I got to start dating again. I don't even know how to like there's that. And it's like, I think the same thing with jobs. I think 90% of people stay in a job because it's safe. It's comfortable. It's scary to leave. What's on the other side? We don't know. Are you ever going to get another job like that? Are you ever going to find another girl that you're going to marry? I don't know. There's all this unknown. Shout out to Frozen. But there's so much unknown out there.
Let it go. Let it go. Another shout out to Frozen.
There's unknown, but there's also distraction. And we were talking about this a little bit before the podcast. Is you noticed it and I noticed it. Instantly when you got the freedom, you got the courage to leave, there's always distractions that come in and jump in along the path. So you have to be narrow focused. So like with real estate, I was narrow focused, and then I was getting in classes, and then bam, and then a corporate company says, hey, we want to hire you and pay three times more is what you were making at the other company. I was like, oh, cool. And I chased after it. So it delayed. I still got the outcome, but it delayed and it put a lot of heartache. How do you personally stay focused?
I don't.
This is coming from two ADD people right here.
That's
medication.
That's a great shout out to Alpha Brain for thanks Joe Rogan.
Oh, seriously.
How do I stay focused? I attempt to stay focused by working to create structure in my life.
Mm-hmm.
So that way I can stack rank my priorities. For me, if I don't keep a list of what needs and label and like kind of like urgent, high, medium, low priority, if I don't do that and create that, I am out chasing squirrels and freaking playing with butterflies. Like, I need that structure. Without structure, I can't stay focused.
Yeah.
So that for me is one thing that I have to learn, like how to build that into my life. Staying focused on my passions, I think that is a process of constant iteration, meaning that like I'm constantly going through different ways of trimming the fat, getting rid of things that aren't important, and making time to journal and evaluate.
That's huge.
What isn't as important. We have to check in with the people around us and ourselves.
100%.
We don't often do that very much. We just keep marching forward, and we don't often take time. Yeah, I'm talking to you listening. Like, you haven't taken time recently to stop and pat yourself on the back for your accomplishments. Review your not failures, because I don't believe in failure. I do believe in opportunities for growth. And look at those opportunities for growth, those things that would be deemed a mistake, and learn from it. It's a failure if you don't learn from it and you repeat it.
I'm going to cut you off. Remember this, fail first attempt in learning. Something that I always tell myself, it's the wallpaper on my phone, because my biggest fear used to be failure. And I changed the perspective of it and said, no, it's not failure. It's my first attempt at learning something new. So that made the fear of pursuing something a little bit easier. So like this podcast, there's been many a times where I've literally just botched half of what I wanted to go in. There's many times of that. And I'm like, I've never done a podcast before, but hey, listen, it's expected.
Yeah.
But I'm never going to learn if I don't actually fail.
You just got to go out there and try, man. Like the first step is the hardest. And the next 35 years of my life may be the most beautiful because I sat up Sunday night, one night, and queued an email to be sent at 8 a.m. the next morning.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And my life will be forever changed because the owner of a company called me, a large company called me and said, hey, listen, there's no need for you anymore. Talk about an ego blow. And I was like, wow. Just like that. And it's just like that. And one humbled me extremely. Like, you talk about getting humbled. Literally, told my wife, hey, I got to call my boss. Don't think it's anything, but I'll be out for dinner in a minute. Come out, and my face is just white. She's like, what happened? I was like, I think I just got fired. She was like, what'd you do? I was like, that's the thing. Nothing. And like the failure, I think so many people are afraid of failure. And I'm like, no, it's good. It's fun. Like, when you change the perspective, it's fun. Like, as long as the failure doesn't cost you millions and millions of dollars. But if it does, you just take it one day at a time. And I think that's what I learned when everything changed. Is I was just like, I don't know what the next 6 months looks like. I don't know what the next year looks like, but I'm just going to take it.
I don't know what the next 60 days looks like for me, but
and that's good.
Figure it out.
And I think that's what literally kept me alive is like, what today needs to be accomplished. And I like the journaling. So I'm big on journaling. So like Alex Hormozy talks, you know Alex Hormozy. So if y'all don't know Alex Hormozy, he's freaking genius when it comes to literally anything. But he's really against routine, like really routine driven people. I'm really routine. Like, I feel like I'm out of control if I don't wake up at a certain time. But he's like, so people like that end up going down a rabbit hole. The point I'm saying is me being routine helps me get to my journaling, helps me get to that. And like, I have 3 things. I have my prayer. And basically my prayer is just how I feel. And then I guess 4 things. Then I write my goals every single morning. My income goal, my life goal, my daily goal, whatever goal that I've set, I write it down. And then my affirmation, which I thought affirmations were a joke. Like I was like, dude, you seriously write I am statements?
You gotta do it.
Yeah, and you do. And I was like, so I write it like I am statements. I am X. I am this. And there's another book that you need to get and y'all need to get. I think I'm trying to build out a list of 3 books. I've gotten down to 2. I need 1 more, but 3 books that every entrepreneur should read before getting into entrepreneurship.
The other one would be what are the 2 you have right now?
Entrepreneur Roller Coaster, and I'm only on chapter 4, so that's just letting you know how good that is. The Answer by John Arshoff, which that is the psychology behind an entrepreneur and the things that
I would either make the 3rd one Extreme Leadership or Start with Why.
Ooh, God, I'll have to read those 2 next.
Because Extreme Leadership will help you understand how to be a really, really, really good leader. Take what you want from it.
That's by Jocko Willing, right? Yeah.
And then Start with Why just helps you to dig into why more. I could recommend a million different books, but I think those will be good to like round out your.
Yeah, I'm gonna read those.
Your little reading list there.
But the answer, it says write affirmations that don't exist yet. And I was like, dude, you're full of crap. But reading the psychology, so getting into the science behind it, your reticulating activating system in your brain is your filter. So when people say, about their wife, I have selective hearing when my wife talks, or just as a joke, it's an actual true statement, is like your reticulating activating system.
It's power in the tongue.
It's a filter. So if you say, I am a real estate agent, then you're going to be more apt to overhearing people talk about real estate more. You're going to be more adherent to opportunities in real estate. And it sounds crazy and delusional, but like I tried it myself. I was like, I'm just going to give it 60 days. I'm going to try it for 60 days. And it works. Like, so I started hearing more about people talking about real estate, which opened up more conversations. And then the last part that I do is gratitudes. It's my biggest thing.
Big one.
Writing my gratitudes out. And I think that's literally what kept me alive. I was like, in college, I went through a really dark time, and I had someone really special in my life, and he made me write. He would text me every single morning, "Hey, what are three good things that happened yesterday?" And I was in a pretty dark place, in a really dark place, and he was like, "I don't care if it's you just tell me you woke up, but just give me 3 things that you're just happy about." And I was like, okay. And it changes your perspective on everything. But yeah, wow, an hour and 4 minutes in, and God, this is so good. I'm probably gonna have to have you on again. We're gonna have to dive in. But I mean, guys, when y'all are going on to this new journey of y'all, stay focused, and things are gonna come your way. I mean, we've experienced it both, I think, first-handed.
Next time you guys see me, I'll be in like a shabby coat and like
with a Dunkin' Donuts cup.
I haven't had showered in 4 days. Dunkin' Donuts cup. We'll be taking donations. I'm gonna GoFundMe up.
I'll put a GoFundMe on this YouTube link.
I'll do a GoFundMe out. Like, please support
this individual and this speaker.
Man.
No, but I freaking love it, dude. Because I mean, I think from a year now, me and you both are probably going to be in somewhere totally different.
Yeah, man.
And
God has plans for us, bro. God has plans for us.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're both pursuing it pretty strong. And I think, I mean, that's prevalent in your life. And I hope that is prevalent in my life as well. Why I started this podcast. So like and subscribe so I can do more of these. Taylor, it was really good having you.
It was great to be considered and asked. It was wonderful to be here. I hope that something that I have said resonates with those of you that are listening. I don't know. I only know what I've experienced, and I'm happy to share my life experiences and what I've, what I've learned from, the ups and the downs with anyone that wants to listen. And I appreciate, having the opportunity to be here to share those things.
Yeah. It's fun talking about the journey, and the journey's the best part. The destination's just,
I'll close actually with this. So you guys probably can't see this on camera, but I have a tattoo here that says, this is a funny story since you said journey. It says, enjoy the journey. Now, this tattoo, I was at the shop getting some other work done, and a young man comes in and he's getting 2 tattoos, pays for the session. First one is so painful. You get on his bicep. You and I both know this was tender spot.
Joker's hurt.
And he wants it back out of the second one. So I walked over. I could overhear it all happening.
Yeah.
And I'm like, young man, 18 years old, getting tattooed. Mom didn't want him to do it, but he went anyways. And I go, young man, you set out on this path. You can't turn back now. You've already paid the man the money. You're already halfway in. You've already gotten the tattoo. You might as well get what you want. So this tattoo is actually his tattoo, because I said to him, I will, whatever I had no idea what it was at the time. I said, whatever your tattoo is, I will be here with you, and I'll go with you in it, this journey, and I will get whatever your tattoo is, just a way like it'll be a funny motivator for you to do it.
Yeah.
And he's like, no way. And the tattoo artist is like, Taylor, don't do this. My artist is like, bro, we're 4 hours into a 6-hour session. Don't do this. I got other shit to do, and I don't want to deal with this, whatever this kid's about to throw at you. Don't do this. I'm like, I don't want this young man to develop the behavior of being like, of quitting, of being like, I set out to do something, and then it's too hard. It's too hard. I can't do it. So I wanted to push him, and I wanted to leverage and show that I was willing to put myself out there as a sacrifice, and to be like, I will go with you on this journey. And he was like, all right. And then he gave me a really personal story that I won't share, but he ends up sitting down, back down in a chair after some tears, and gets the rest of his tattoo. And then he leaves, and I'm still in my session. And so he didn't see me get this. He took my number down, and I said, yeah, I'm gonna get it. If you hold up your end, I'll hold up my end.
Yeah.
He leaves. I end up, my tattoo artist is like, all right, cool, that's over. I'm like, nah, man, I'm a man of my word. You got to do it. Yeah. So let's just get it over with. He does it, and then I take a picture of it, text it to the kid, and the kid just big, long, emotional text, and it's now one of my favorite tattoos.
Dude,
enjoy the journey, and it's not something I went to It's simple. It's just a little bit of simple little like Arial font. Like, enjoy the journey. I have some really great art, man, but that's my favorite one.
Yeah, and there's so many stories in there that I won't unpack a ton. But on the other side of pain is always reward. I believe that if you can withstand the pain, there's always a reward. If you work out, anything. Yeah.
My head went to the Ellie, come on, get it.
No,
all right, y'all.
But no, seriously, consistency. If you're feeling like quitting, I think he's probably the best person to look at as that. If you're thinking about quitting, don't, because on the other side of it, there's great reward, and I believe that, and I think that's prevalent in anyone. If you sacrifice equals reward, if you're willing to do it, and if you're initiating it. So we're going to end on that. God, Taylor, so good. Passion Seekers, thank you so much for tuning in. Like and subscribe. Let me know if y'all have any questions. If you'll want anyone particular on, I would love it. If you have anyone that you would like to refer out that wants to be on the podcast, send them over this way. But Passion Seekers, we'll catch you on the next one. Peace.
Keep your comments about my chicken legs to yourself.
And the bloopers. Oh, dude, that was good.